Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Gardener. So I was doing a little bit of search on the internet because I was trying to find where is all that wrong information that tends to come out, and a lot of people tend to follow these wrong advices. So I thought I will quickly do a little bit of Google search, and I'm going to be showing you what are the horrors that I happen to find on Google. Now always remember guys, Google is not an expert. Google is basically a search engine. So whatever people tend to put into the feed, that is what is going to show up on your screen. Either that can be very helpful or it is going to be completely disastrous, and that's what I'm going to show you in this video. But before that, I thought I will talk a little bit about it. For example, let's say that you are searching for something on Google. Now there are going to be always two sides. Probably there is a person who has 100% knowledge about succulents. At the same time, there would be another person who has zero amount of knowledge about succulents. Now both of them have given their views on Google, so it all depends upon your search. What exactly are you searching? For example, we all know that succulents are not low light plants, and if we are going to keep our succulents in low light, they will definitely start to stretch. Now let's say that the person who has a good amount of knowledge will never say that you can keep your succulents in low light, whereas the person who has zero knowledge about succulents will mention that succulents will do well in low light. So now when you tend to put your Google search as can succulents do well in low light, what do you think is going to come up on your search? Of course, it is going to catch those phrases of the person who has zero knowledge, who has mentioned that succulents will do well in low light. So that is what you are going to get on your feed, and you are going to believe it. So the next couple of clips what I'm going to share is from Google search, and I'm very surprised that one of them is a website. So I'm going to share the screenshots in the next clips. Now over here I came across this article, probably it was published in 2017, where the person says that succulents can be kept in indirect morning sunlight or indirect afternoon sunlight. Here I can say, okay, indirect afternoon sunlight is absolutely fine, there is no issue. But why indirect morning sunlight? Because a lot of people want a good amount of color on the succulents. Keeping your succulents in indirect bright light is not going to give you that intense color. We all want succulents that are intensely colored. So if you're going to keep them in indirect morning sunlight, they are not going to get color. Of course, the succulent is not going to stretch in indirect morning sunlight, but they will not have that required color that you are looking out for. Because right now I do sell succulents, and most of the people, I would say out of 10 people, 9 people say that I want a succulent that tends to look very colorful. So imagine keeping it in indirect bright light, it's not going to help you. Even if I'm going to send you an intense colored, brightly colored succulent, if you are going to keep it in indirect bright light, all of that colors are going to fade off within 2 to 3 days. Here is another example. This is Graptovaria bashful, which I have recently unboxed. Probably it was not getting a good amount of light, so you can see how the leaves tend to look like, how the ground area tends to look like. But when you offer a good amount of morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours, you can see how the colors tend to look like, how compact the succulent tends to get. Of course, the succulent will be compact in indirect light, but it is not going to have that beautiful color that we are looking out for. The same thing goes with this one as well. It gets a good amount of morning direct sunlight. It is slowly starting to get that color because it has been a little bit cloudy. You can see this succulent is also in open terrace. There is a lot of light, but of late it has been little cloudy. So you can see how the colors are starting to miss because they prefer a good intensity of light. If you're going to keep them in indirect light, this is how your succulent is going to look like. Now, imagine if someone is selling this succulent like this. Of course, you're not even going to give a second look to it. You'll probably look out for a succulent that tends to look like this. So if you want to have that intense color, forget about low light. So if you want your succulents to look like this, indirect bright light or low light is definitely not going to help. So always remember, the colors are only going to show up on your succulents if you are going to offer them a good amount of light. You can see some of them have started to get discolored, and this was because of the cloudy environment that we are facing in my city. Now, there was another website that I came across which said that there are 10 succulents that will do well in low light. Now, a lot of sellers will suggest that you can keep your succulents in low light. The reason is because they want to sell their products. They will just say whatever they want. They can even say that you can keep your rose plant in the washroom if they have to sell the product. People can go to great extent in order to do a sale. They can say a lot of things. Whether the product is going to perform or not later on, that is not their main priority. Their main priority is to make a sale. So they will come up with things like you can keep a succulent in the bedroom, you can keep a succulent in the low light. They will just offer all this information. Now I will put up the article. You can just pause to read. This is the header of that website, and then once you start scrolling down, I happen to notice haworthia is also mentioned in the low light plant condition. Probably they wanted to say indirect bright light, because as I've said, elegans will do well in indirect bright light, but definitely not in low light. They will start to stretch. You might have seen my elegans in the last video. They had a lot of stretch on them because they were not getting a good amount of light. Now that I have moved them to indirect bright light, they are slowly starting to change. I will show it to you in a while, but you can pause to read this article. You can see what is being mentioned on this article is completely incorrect. They have said that the 10 low light plants, but here they have said that they require at least 4 hours of direct morning sunlight. So it is pretty confusing with what header has been given, and when you tend to read the rest of the article, it is very confusing. They have said that if the succulent does not get a good amount of light, the center will get elongated, it will start to stretch. You have to offer 4 hours of direct sunlight. So that is very confusing. I'm going to show my elegans to you. So if you remember, I had put these elegans in this particular pot and I had kept them in indirect bright light. Here there is a good intensity of indirect bright light, and now you can see it is slowly starting to catch up. You can see the crown areas are getting a little bit compact. Earlier you can see how they looked, but now you can see the crown area is getting very compact, very tight, and that's exactly how it should look like. You can see all of the new growth is showing that compactness because they are getting a good amount of light in this location, and slowly and steadily they will start to grow. So this was a recent arrangement, but I can see overall the elegans are loving this spot and they're doing quite well. Of course, this is not a low light spot. This receives a good amount of indirect bright light. The intensity is above 3000 lux, so you can see they are performing extremely well. So guys, that was all about it. As I said, at times you can definitely get good information on Google, but Google is not an expert. It is just a search engine. Whatever people tend to put in the information is what you tend to receive depending upon what you are searching. So always experiment, always check, validate if that information is correct. Don't blindly go according to it, because if once the succulent starts having issue, then it is very difficult to rectify it. So guys, that was all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep propagating.